postseason and in the finals, he wasn't sacrificing shots. No. He just wasn't making them. And so to me, it's not about Tatum's numbers not being good enough. It is, we do have precedent of guys not only winning one title, but winning back-to-back titles, and no one's saying they're the best player in the world. Was there ever a moment, Brew, that the world thought Isaiah Thomas was better than Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson? The answer is no. He beat them both en route to championships multiple times. And people were just like, he's a great player. He's a Hall of Famer. It's a great team. They're better. So it's not, it is, some of this is an eye test part of it. And I know that can be frustrating to some. I look at, to Brew's point, Jokic, Giannis, and Luka as just flatly and clearly better basketball players. And so when I said there's nothing he can do, what I'm saying is, if my basketball acumen means anything, there is nothing to me that is realistically available to him to make up that gap while those guys are still in their prime. It'd be one thing if it's like, oh, Tatum's on the upslope, those guys are on the downslope. Right. None of those guys are deteriorating. Mm-hmm. Luka's younger than him. Giannis and Jokic aren't that much older than him. It's not a LeBron,
they're all
Steph.
Still in their prime.
Right, they're all still in their primes. And so I have seen plenty of guys be great players, be the best player on a champion, and, by the way, win finals MVP, which he didn't do, but I'm not that worried about that. That's a series. And nobody thought they were the best player in the world. Nobody thought Dirk was the best player in the world after 2011. I don't think there was a single player on the Spurs in 2014 that people were like, that guy's the best player in the world. No, not Duncan, not
but
young Kawhi. Duncan had been, but at that point, no. So that's not to me, I'm not being unfair there. I look at the league right now as, if we wanted to tier it, Brew, Luka, Jokic, Giannis are in that first tier, and different people can argue 1 through 3. Then you have a group of a half dozen guys. Shea, Embiid, Tatum, Edwards, Brunson. I think that's fine. You don't have to include him in that. That's fine. I think you have to include Jaylen Brown there in that tier. And then you have this weird tier of the old legends, LeBron, Steph, KD, that on any given night, but over the course of a 100-game season, those are where all those people live. And I just don't see. I don't think Tatum is going to jump into that top tier. I do think it's more likely Anthony Edwards does. Not next year necessarily, but because he is so young, that I would give more opportunity for Shea. Not because of his age, because he's actually older than people think, but because he doesn't have as much big game experience yet. We'll see where he goes. I think Tatum is mostly who he is, which is awesome, but never going to be the best player in the league.
Shea's interesting. I think he and Tatum are very comparable. I mean, different games, but I think they're very comparable. You mentioned Edwards, and one of the things about Edwards, I mean, obviously he's spectacular. You mentioned eye test, but the energy he brings. Defensively, he looks like he bothers you when you're on offense. And that's what you want to – and I don't think Tatum really even has that personality. Yeah, like, so, you know what I mean? Like that high energy, but that's the type of thing you want to see where eye test wise, you might say, oh, okay, he jumps up a level, but I don't know that he's going to do that. And on that team, he may not need to do that because they have so many great defenders.
But if he decided to get better this year, if he went into the lab, he's like, you know what, my goal is to be the best player in the league, so I'm going to expend more energy on defense and add a few more moves so I don't have to rely on my step back three that doesn't always go in.
It really could be just, I don't want to say eliminating that from your game, but some of the bad shots he takes, eliminate those from your game. And obviously he's got to be clutch. And a lot of these, I mean, he's missing shots at the rim that are somewhat contested, but those are makeable shots. If he improved in the clutch and became tenacious defensively,
it's on the board.
That's what he needs to do to move up.
It is very rare in the NBA, especially with the talent pool as deep as it is right now, when you're in a moment where you have transcendent, unique talents at the apex of their powers, for a guy who's just really, really good at almost everything to be at the top of the mountain. Jokic is, I was, for the 100th time, I was late to the party on it. But I feel like I'm,
he didn't say it.
He is, Brew has said this for a while, with respect to the late, great Bill Walton, the greatest passing big man ever. And there was just recently a nice little graph about field goal percentage in the 5 to 10 foot range, and he's hidden off in the corner better than everyone else. He is a unique, never seen it before. Giannis is called the Greek freak for a reason because his strength, his athleticism, plus being a true 7 foot makes him unlike anybody else. And Luka has been almost solving offensive basketball since he was 15 years old playing against pros. It's going to be really hard for a really, really good 6'9", you know what I mean, standard basketball player to reach the top of that mountain when those three giants live there.
He would have to certainly win it next year, win Finals MVP, probably win MVP, do the things I said, clutch, defense. And those guys would have to be eliminated early again. If Giannis is eliminated again in the first or second round, and Jokic too. Now, Luka, I mean, all of them can't be eliminated that early. But if all those three guys go out early, then and he's dominant throughout the postseason again, then I think that makes his chances better.
All right. Celtics starting 5, bringing everybody back. Payroll now at $939 million. In a push to keep the core together for a sustained run. Title odds, Celtics at number 1, then it's OKC, Philly, Denver tied with New York, and the Mavs and the Wolves. Are these Celtics set up perfectly, I added perfectly, to repeat?
Well, look, it's going to be hard because, I mean, this is the era of parity. We say that, but it's not just for fun. That's what it is. The last 6 champions, new teams, and we thought Milwaukee was going to maybe be a dynasty. We thought Denver might be a dynasty.
Some people stake their entire professional reputation on 2-0 against the Celtics.
And so I do think they should be the favorites because Denver is worse right now.
Yes.
They are worse than they were 2 months ago. All right, so there's that. OKC has had a phenomenal offseason. My only question, and I went against my historical knowledge in making our picks this postseason, because I felt, you got to go through something. In most cases, Minnesota was too young really to get there, and OKC, but I still picked Minnesota. And I think OKC, the only question I have about them is their youth. That's it. I mean, they were the youngest team ever to win the playoff series.
But they did get some experience last year.
Yeah. A little experience last year. But that's the only thing against them.
Better.
Dallas is definitely better.
Yeah.
And I think they're better suited to match up with Boston. I think Minnesota will just be better from the experience that they went through.
And will get better.
I think in the East, it's New York, in my view, because I hope I'm wrong, because I'd love to see everybody be healthy. So I hope Philly
got better.
They're definitely better.
Philly got better, and they have more of a margin of injury error.
Yeah.
Not for the postseason.
They don't have a ton of depth, but they're definitely better. I think Nick Nurse is a good coach. But, right now I think Boston should be the favorite.
So here's the thing. So there is the very practical part, which is it was just kind of, sloughed off. Kristaps is supposed to be out for 6 months. That's Christmas.
So he'll be back, right.
You know what I mean? So that is, and I'm always a little hesitant on, this is, if the timeline is this, it's very rarely 6 weeks early, actually, we're back. But sometimes,
and he's had injury problems.
He injured one leg early in the playoffs. The surgery is on the other leg. So that now, the Celtics fans yelling at the screen, be like, oh, we just won the championship without him. So 100% that's true. You did, and it's legitimate. But that is already a little bit of a fly in the ointment, so to speak. The other piece of it is, we say this in the NFL, but it's true in the NBA as well, the copycat league part of it. The 2 teams in the league who, by a decent margin, shot the most threes last year were Boston and Dallas. And by the way, the gap between Boston and Dallas 1 and 2 was equal to the gap between Dallas and the 10th place team as far as. So I do think it's not just J.J. Redick in the coaching booth this offseason that's going to be like, let's shoot more threes. So the reason I mention that is I do think that was part of Boston's regular season edge was they were playing the math game with a team perfectly built to do it. Everyone can't do that, I understand. But Denver was dead last in 3-point